Hey everyone, what's up? It's me, lo-fi musician and producer, Blue Sirens. And today I want to talk to you about reviewing the movie Piece by Piece, the Pharrell Williams story. Now, if you haven't heard about Pharrell and who he is, that's crazy. Just to be honest, that's crazy. He has worked on multiple tracks with tons of great artists, from Jay-Z to Pusha T to Gwen Stefani to No Doubt and Snoop Dogg and many, many more. And this movie came out last year. I didn't go see it in theaters, I just missed it. So it came out this past week to rent. So I thought, you know what? Let me check this out. And honestly, this was a pretty solid movie. But it's a unique movie when it comes to musicians and, documentaries about musicians. Because it doesn't really, I think, dive super deep into Pharrell Williams and like his career, because he's just had like a crazy career. He isn't necessarily always been a sole artist, but more so been like a producer, and he's been on a producer team called the Neptunes. So this movie doesn't dive into a whole bunch of specifics of his career, but really covers some highlights and some things that he's learned along the way. And I want to just talk about that movie, what I think was great, and some great learnings you can take away from it. First off, this movie, it's a Lego movie. Everyone in this movie is Legos. And I think that was done intentionally, of course, by Pharrell Williams as a way to kind of keep maybe aspects of his career a little bit more kid-friendly, because he's worked with some big names in the industry and, people like Snoop Dogg and the song Drop It Like It's Hot. Not always the most kid-friendly content, but you mix it with Legos and it has a much wider reach. Kids that don't know anything about Pharrell Williams but love Legos will be like, hey, I want to see what this is about. There hasn't been a Lego movie in a while, so it has some good marketing value with that. And there's something in the documentary that Pharrell Williams kind of talks about that I think is really why we get this in Legos. And that's where he gets the idea of just doing anything creative, and he feels like he has to do it. In the movie, he talks about, he did a designer line, he did skateboards, he did a drink that looked like Pepto-Bismol but was like a wine, and he just felt like he had to do those things. And so I feel like this kind of maybe a branch of that, but in a smaller way, because it's, you do the movie or someone pays for the animation Lego, and that's kind of it. It's still about his music, but just through the filter of Legos. And I think the Legos was a really cool way to show what it's like to make a beat. Because if you just kept handing someone a CD or a demo or something like that in this movie, it just, may lose the flavor of it. But to say, hey, I made this cool little thing out of Legos and it's supposed to represent your beat, and it looks different each time, I think that's actually a really cool way to visually see the music and what it looks like when Pharrell creates that music and it's a finished product and he's giving it to an artist for them to sing or rap on top of it. So it had some really cool elements of that as well. And there are some big elements of his life and some big events in his life that I don't think you can necessarily absorb too well in a human setting. So there's aspects of him feeling overwhelmed and like he's drowning in all this pressure, and they use the Legos and the ocean to like kind of illustrate these aspects without making you feel like, man, someone had to say something really deep. You can just visually see, oh, he's struggling in this moment. So, and you also get the ability to, travel to different places in the country, from like Virginia, where he's born, to New York, and they show clips of different things happening around the world through his music. And some of those clips may be kind of easy to find, but you also get to just make them through Legos, and that might have made it a little bit easier. But I do want to do a quick shout out. Thank you, Pharrell, for supporting animation and making this movie, because animation isn't always an embraced genre, and I think it was really cool that you decided to make this movie out of Legos and support animators in a time where people don't always feel like they need to be supported. So thank you for supporting them by making this movie. out of Legos, and also supporting creativity through Legos as well, because he also did do a Lego set with this movie as well too. So there you go. Another thing that Pharrell kind of maybe felt like he had to do creatively for this project. But if we dive into Pharrell's life, Pharrell has synesthesia. That's where you can see music kind of colors, and he describes it as being able to see it in your mind's eye. Other artists like Kanye West have said they have this. It's a unique thing where you can visually see music, and the way they illustrated this in the movie is pretty cool. He also talks a lot about how his grandmother kind of inspired him and pushed him, and how he had a great home life and also just great friends in high school. He went to high school with like Timbaland and Missy Elliott, and most importantly, Chad, the other member of the Neptunes, who they became a producer group together, and another member that the three of them joined together and they formed NRD. So community has been a huge aspect for Pharrell growing up. And as his career progresses and he pushes harder and harder and wants to be more and more, it becomes more important how the community actually is to him. And one of the aspects that you kind of see in the movie, he did get kind of like taken under the wing by a producer, and that kind of gave him some spotlight and helped him out. But he distances himself from that producer for about 5 years, and it's just making beats for 5 years straight. And that's like that grind that everyone kind of talks about. It's like, you got to learn this skill. You got to have that. And I think Pharrell always had a gift, but that was a time where he was like really honing in and learning how to use that gift and express that gift in a way that is uniquely Pharrell. Because after those 5 years, they take those beats out, they start marketing them, and he starts getting placements on tracks of other people, and he ultimately wants to be an artist, but he uses this as a gateway to get in the spotlight. And as he's making beats with Jay-Z and all these people, he finds his way into being a solo artist and realizes it's not actually him and it's not what he wants. And I think this is a great aspect of the movie, and he also gets kind of emotional on this, kind of realizing he wanted to be in the spotlight for so long, but realized it just wasn't who he is. And as I mentioned before, he realizes that throughout this movie how important his community is, because he does get attached to some kind of money-hungry record label people. They don't really call anyone out by name, but that's kind of like what it appears like it happens. He gets influenced by the wrong people who want him to do music for the wrong reasons. And it puts a lot of pressure on him. He gets overwhelmed, and he kind of loses himself and isn't really making music the way he used to. He's not really experimenting or trying anything new. He's just rehashing old stuff to be marketable, and none of that music really does well. And he kind of feels lost in this pressure and falls off, but he finds himself again in his community, and he realizes he was really arrogant, really self-centered, and just not really the person he wanted to be. And once he realizes that the community he's had with him all along really just want to see him see him be successful, he feels like he's already won, and that's enough. And he can channel that into making good music again and makes a really good comeback, but doesn't even really care about the comeback. He's just excited to be able to do music again for himself and make things that he's happy about, and knowing he has his community back, and knowing his community has his back. So that's like a really touching moment in the movie, and that's like an hour in. This movie is only about 93 minutes. It's not a long movie, but there's so much happening through it, and you can see so many songs and people that he's touched in this first hour that's like, whoa, it's a really fast-paced movie, but it doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's only been like 5 minutes. It's crazy. So about an hour in, he gets into like the Daft Punk phase, and he's making music with them, and he's like, I'm coming back. And every song from there on out has some sort of like purpose or message with it, which I think is really where we see Pharrell be Pharrell. Like, he's making music in the beginning of his career because he's passionate about making music, and now in his second half of his career, after this state of depression or not being in the best state of mind for making music, he's finding he needs to make music for a specific person or for a specific purpose. and he makes Happy, which was a huge hit. I couldn't get away from that song for years because it was just everywhere. And then he makes All Right with Kendrick Lamar, and then he decides, hey, like, we're back. I'm ready to go out, do things again on my own. He's gone on to make tons of songs for other movies, like Despicable Me. Happy was originally for Despicable Me, but like, the dude's just done so much stuff, and he's not gonna stop anytime soon. I mean, yeah, he's got a family, he's got kids, so obviously that's gonna take a lot of his time. He reunited with the Neptunes, and you know, everything's kind of looking like it's on the up and up based on the end of this movie. But you see these moments of just like deep personal growth from him. And the last moments of the movie is just him talking about how he's trying to go deeper and really dive into what makes us and making music that really connects with us as people. He says we're all just molecules vibrating on some sort of frequency, and sometimes we get connected through music and through other people. So it's a really touching movie. I was really touched. There were a lot of things in this movie that reminded me of my childhood, you know, my influence of my grandma on me starting doing music, how I would get lost in watching television and be kind of like in some sort of dreamland as I was in, you know, grade school and high school, not really caring about grades, just imagining different things. I kind of still do that sometimes. But if you're interested at all about Pharrell, this is a really great starting ground. If you have kids and you're like, hey, this is a fun little Lego movie, maybe wait till they're maybe like 8 or 9 because there are a couple of swear words in there. But this movie's just a fun watch. I can't believe how fast it went by. I really enjoyed watching it. It's just a fun time, and you really feel like you're more connected to who Pharrell is as a person, the motivation behind his music. You can go back and connect with his music on a deeper level, and it makes me even more excited to see what Pharrell's going to do next with his career. What's really special, I think, about Pharrell is that he doesn't really come out with his own tracks per se. He does have his own like solo kind of career, but he can pop up anywhere on anyone's song and either be dropping a line or be producing it, and just really have a unique take in so many different genres through so many different artists. So when you hear the next song that Pharrell releases, it could come from anywhere and it could be anything. And I think that's super exciting, and one of the things that makes him a great artist, because you just never know what's going to happen next with him. But what do you guys think? Did you watch the Piece by Piece movie? Did you guys like it? Was it cool seeing everyone kind of be their own Lego person? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And until next time, peace.